The late summer sun drenched the tennis courts in a golden haze, the kind of light that made the air shimmer like glass. Around the pristine courts of the prestigious Belridge Country Club, men in tailored suits and women in glittering gowns mingled, their laughter floating across the manicured lawns like champagne bubbles. At the heart of this elegant crowd stood Vivienne Aldridge, a striking woman in a flawless ivory dress, her tennis racket balanced in her hand with the poise of royalty. Vivienne was the dazzling CEO of a multi-million-dollar conglomerate, a woman who had inherited not just wealth but an unshakable belief in her superiority. Across from her stood Jonas Calder, awkward in his faded gray janitor's uniform, the scent of floor polish still clinging to his sleeves. To the onlookers, Jonas was a shadow, a man who belonged in the background, unseen and unremembered. But today, all eyes were locked on him. Vivienne's lips curved into a cruel smile. Moments earlier, she had raised her voice above the chatter of the crowd and declared, "Beat me in tennis, Calder, and I'll marry you." Her words dripped with sarcasm, sparking gasps and then roaring laughter. To the elite guests, it was a joke, a humiliating spectacle staged at the expense of a janitor. Jonas stood frozen, gripping the wooden broom he had been carrying before he was dragged into this charade. His face flushed, but his tired eyes, those worn, storm-gray eyes, held something no one expected: fire. Before I continue, let me pause. If you believe in dignity, in second chances, and in the hidden greatness of ordinary people, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps us spread stories that remind the world that courage never goes unnoticed. Jonas Calder hadn't always been invisible. Years ago, he had been a rising college tennis star with a scholarship and a future carved into the courts. But life has a cruel way of redrawing maps. Soon after his daughter's birth, his beloved wife fell gravely ill. Medical bills drained every cent. And when she passed away, Jonas laid down his racket and walked away from his dreams, choosing instead to raise his daughter alone. No one at Belridge knew his story. To them, he was just the man who mopped the floors. They never saw him steal dawn's first light on these very courts, practicing with an old battered racket just to remind himself he was still alive. They never saw him kneel by his daughter's bed, whispering stories of heroes who rose after being scorned. And now Vivienne's mockery had thrown him into the brightest spotlight of all. He could have walked away, endured the laughter, swallowed the shame. But then his gaze fell on the edge of the court, where his daughter, Isla, sat cross-legged on the grass, clutching her worn teddy bear. Her wide eyes were fixed on him, filled with belief. She had always believed he could do anything. How could he walk away now? With steady resolve, Jonas set down his broom. "I accept," he said, his voice firm enough to silence the whispers. A spare racket was thrust into his hand. Its weight felt foreign, its grip strange, but his posture was steady, his heart anchored. The match began. Vivienne's first serve ripped through the air like lightning. But Jonas moved as though the years had melted away, his arm rising, his body remembering, and he returned the ball with a clean, perfect strike. A hush fell. The janitor had returned her serve. Another ball came, faster, sharper. Again, Jonas sent it back with calm precision. Soon, the crowd's laughter dissolved into stunned silence. Point by point, his rhythm unfolded, power, grace, and a buried brilliance resurfacing. Each swing carried the weight of sacrifice, loss, and a father's love. Vivienne faltered. Her smirk vanished, replaced by sweat and desperation. Jonas remained unshaken, every movement guided by something deeper than pride. On the sidelines, Isla clapped with all her might, her joy shining brighter than the summer sun. The final rally was a storm. Vivienne struck with ferocity, but Jonas met it with quiet strength, sending the ball across the court in a flawless, devastating arc. It landed. She missed. The game was over. The janitor had beaten the CEO. The crowd froze in disbelief. And then, Isla's delighted cry pierced the silence as she rushed into her father's arms. Jonas lifted her high, his chest heaving, tears blurring his vision. For once, he wasn't invisible. For once, the world saw the man he truly was, not a janitor, but a father, a fighter, a man who carried dignity and greatness within him. Vivienne stood paralyzed, her arrogance shattered. Even she, behind her humiliation, knew she had witnessed something extraordinary. Jonas didn't care about her words, her promise, her bet. What mattered was the light in Isla's eyes, the memory he had carved into her heart. That her father was more than the world believed him to be. As people slowly approached him with respect instead of ridicule, Jonas remained unchanged. He didn't seek their praise. All that mattered was that his daughter's faith in him had been justified. And that is the true heart of this story. Greatness hides in the quietest lives, in parents who sacrifice without recognition, in people mocked by the world but who rise when it matters most. Before we end, if this story has moved you, please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Every click helps us spread hope, kindness, and the reminder that no one is ever truly invisible.